On the day that you were out there fishing, did you have any type of cellular service out there?
No, sir. I fished that place right regularly. I understand, I probably shouldn't have. I don't know why I did it, but I took those things straight to the law. I took nothing out of it. There was money in it and everything that was in it. I don't know what made me grab it. I don't even know what made me go in there, to be honest with you.
Now, the belongings that you did find, were they like in a baggie or a backpack or a purse or?
Yes, sir. I call it like a little fanny pack. It had 3 different compartments in it. Mm-hmm. Okay. It was probably, I'd say, it might have been 2 foot away from the bank whenever I found it.
Yes, sir.
Okay. The glasses and her cell phone. I never looked at none of that. Like I said, I hadn't even realized what had even happened.
Right.
So I picked it up and I put it in my boat. Well, I did walk to my left a little bit, because I felt like something like that had happened. I walked to my left a little bit and looked, and there was an opening to the right, and I looked, and I didn't see nothing, so I just picked the stuff up, stuck it in my boat, and got out of there, and went straight to the boat landing. And there was a bunch of people there at the boat landing, and well, let me go back. When I come out of the little lake, there's an observation deck up there. Have you seen it?
I have, yes, sir.
Okay, there was probably 10. There was a family of people up there, and I had told them, I said, man, I just found some stuff in there. I don't know who it belongs to. And then they had told me that somebody had called 911. But anyway, I left from there. I went straight to the boat landing. I loaded my boat up, and there's a little wall on each side of the boat landing. I took the stuff out of my boat, laid it up there on the wall. I loaded my boat up. That's when I looked into the little bag, and I noticed there was a little over $500 some in there. Mm-hmm. And this is exactly what I done, sir. I was telling the people, I said, man, there's money in there and everything. And this is exactly what I did. I did leave out of there. My nose was all tore up. I'm a smoker. I didn't have a lighter. I ran to the store. I knew the laws was already there. I turned around. I went straight back to the place. I pulled up in the parking lot there where the picnic tables is at, the picnic shelter area is at.
Yes, sir.
And there was a truck there. And I pulled in behind it, not realizing it was a law. I rushed up behind him. He said, sir, would you mind backing up? I got to run this drone. I looked at the drone. I said, oh, Lord, that's a sheriff's drone. That's when I realized that he was a law. I didn't realize that he was a law because he was in his personal truck. He was a 24-hour call law. He was on call.
Right.
So I said,
so essentially, it was a Robertson County deputy. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. As far as I know, yes, sir.
Okay. So he didn't show you any credentials. He didn't have a badge on.
No, sir. Like I said, he hadn't had no sleep. Said he'd been on call all night. No, sir. He didn't really show me nothing like that. Okay. He had the drone, and the drone, I noticed it had Robertson County Sheriff Department on it.
Sure.
That's when I realized, that he was a law.
Yeah, and I'm familiar with the drone, so I understand. Now, on that day...
Like I said, I pulled up behind him, and I said, sir, do you know a Mica Miller? He said, how do you know a Mica? He said, step out of your truck. Oh, sir, hold on a minute now. I said, I don't know what's going on. But anyway, I told him what I just told you, my story. Well, I told my story about what had happened. And then my mind's blowed up on this thing. I told him the story and everything, told him what had happened, and he sort of came around and told me what was going on. And I said, man, don't tell me that. Don't tell me that. He said, well, yeah, he said, that's what happened. I said, well, how do y'all know? How did y'all find out? He told me that she had called 911, that she was getting ready to commit suicide. And she wanted to call them and let them know so her parents won't be worried about, go ahead so they can find her quick.
So my question is, so Robertson County notified you pretty much, instantly that this was a suicide case.
after I told him my story. Yeah.
Okay.
Not soon as I started talking to him, but after I told him my story and I talked with the park rangers and everything about trying to link him to where
I can barely hear you.
Am I breaking up?
I can hear you. No, I was saying I could barely hear you. I didn't know if you were walking away from the phone.
Okay.
You know, so approximately how long would you say Robertson County spoke to you prior to you leaving?
I say I was there a good 30 minutes or so.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
And you said when you loaded up your boat, what type of boat was that you loaded up?
It's a little one-man boat.
Okay, is it like a kayak or?
It's something. It's like a little small canoe.
Okay.
It's something similar to that.
And do you have like a trolling motor or anything on there?
Yes, sir. I had a trolling motor on it.
Okay.
That's the only reason. That's the only reason I was able to get up into that hole because, as a matter of fact, that's what I've done. I was getting ready to leave out, and I turned around and looked. I said, "There's an opening." I don't know what made me go in there neither after a gunshot. I reckon I was on adrenaline. I said, "Well, there's an opening there big enough I can go in there." And I turned around and I went in there. And what that was, where she was at, or whatever happened or whatever. That water that was in there is just high water because the water was high that day.
Right.
That water into them woods, that's just high water that was in there. When the water's down real low, there wouldn't be no water in there.
Now, is there a path that leads to the water that you're describing?
Yes, sir. I told the park ranger. That's how I got the park rangers there.
Okay.
Where I found her belongings at, I looked straight up ahead. And there was a path just as clear as day coming in there.
Okay. All right.
Sir, let me tell you something.
Go ahead.
Which I'm going to be sounding like an investigator, but I don't want to be like that. But the only thing that I've got in question about this whole thing is now I just found out last week that JP had a lawyer or something that's got land down there. My only thing is, I know, when I travel up and down the river, I look on the side and I see some posted signs.
Right.
People's got land on the river.
Right.
Okay?
I'm aware of that. Yes, sir.
It tells you not to trespass.
Correct.
So I'm not going to do that no way. But if I'm not mistaken, I think they said that there was places around in that area that was prohibited to go into the river that way.
Right.
Speaking of somebody's got land on there, don't get on the land to go to it. My theory is, if that man's land is somewhere near right there, I feel like somebody might have come in off of that land.
Right.
As far as me hearing her arguing with somebody, as far as even knowing somebody was even there, I couldn't see nothing because the woods was so thick.
I understand that. I've walked through there, so I understand.
But let me put this in there, though, sir. I feel like, because when I got out there on the bank, and I'm sure you understand where I'm coming from, when I got out there on the bank where her stuff was at, I looked out into the lake, and I could see everything out there in the lake. And I really feel like whoever she did or whoever, I feel like they actually, because there was other people in the lake also, I feel like they seen us or seen me, to be honest with you.
And I guess that's where I'm getting at with my next few questions is, you said that you stopped and spoke with some individuals on a boat that were leaving out of that same area, correct?
No, they weren't leaving out of the area. They was coming into the area. Okay,
coming to the same area that you were already in.
So let me add this here. Before I came into the lake off of the river.
Yes, sir.
That's me coming down river, okay? I passed them in the river. So because they were fishing upriver.
Okay.
So that's putting me going past them to come back into the lake. I passed them in the river. So because they were fishing upriver.
Okay.
So that's putting me going past them to come back into the lake.
Sure.
Okay. When the gunshot went off, and I said, "Oh my God, I hope something didn't happen." When I happened to look back, they were coming in out of the river back into the lake the same way that I came in.
Okay. What
So
type? What type of
thinking
boat?
that they had something to do with it. They never did.
What type of boat were they in?
It was a John boat.
Okay.
I'd say maybe aluminum John boat. Maybe it had to be at least a 14-footer because there was a man, a young lady, which I figured out was that man's daughter, and then another man in the front.
Which man's daughter?
The one, well, either one of them really, but I felt like it was the one in the back of the boat.
Right, but I'm saying
he might have been the father. I don't know.
But I'm saying, who are you referring to as far as the daughter? Like, I guess the people that were on the boat, you knew that it was.
Oh yeah. There were 3 people on the boat.
Right.
Let's just say it was the father, the daughter, and then maybe a friend or something. She was in the middle of the boat.
Okay. No.
They came into the lake and I asked them. I said, "Did y'all hear that gunshot?" And they told me, "Yeah." I said, "Well, somebody was in there crying." I said, I couldn't tell if it was a young, a male, or female. I said, somebody was in there crying. I said, the gunshot went off, the crying stopped.
Okay.
So they turned around, and I didn't even pay them no more attention, to be honest with you. They turned around, and I guess they went ahead and left out, because by the time I got back with her belongings, they were getting ready to load their stuff up, but they still stood around and just fished off the bank for a little while. When I left out, I noticed they were just still fishing off. They just started fishing off the bank.
Now, have you, prior to this or anything else, had law enforcement, or have you ever seen a photo of John Miller?
But beforehand?
Yes, sir.
No, sir. No, I've never even heard of a JP Miller. No, sir.
Okay. Now, going to JP, did any of those individuals that you saw on the boat, did they resemble or appear to be someone that would look like JP?
Oh, no. God, no.
Okay. And going back to the gunshots, you only heard one shot. Is that correct?
I promise you. I only heard one shot. I've heard there was 2. I only heard one shot.
Now, I noticed at the observation point, it's a lot of rushing water there. So you don't ever have any issues or anything with your trolling motor getting through that area?
Right there where it turns out at the lake?
Yes, sir.
Well, yes, that part of the river, for some reason, it's got a very strong current in it, especially when the water's real high.
Right.
That's the reason why I go up, just in case something happens with my motor, I can just paddle back down or whatever.
I understand.
Uh-huh.
What time did you arrive on that day at the landing and started fishing prior to you leaving?
Sir, I can't really say approximately. I'm thinking it was maybe. I know it was right around about 10. It was between 10:30 and 11:30.
Okay. All right.
Actually, I was thinking, man, I mean, it's just unreal. I was actually thinking, because I went way up the river fishing. I don't know how I was thinking that happened around 4 o'clock. I really don't know why. I never had made a phone call to a friend of mine. I was letting him know everything that I thought was happening down there. And I told him, I said, Charles, can you look back on your phone? Because I erased all my phone calls. I said, can you look back on my phone and tell me when the first time it was when I called you? He told me it was 1:27.
But you're saying, so was it around the 1:27 when you called him when you heard the gunshot, or prior to the gunshot?
I'd be guessing, man, to be honest with you. I wish the Lord I'd known exactly what time it was, but he told me it was I think it was about 1:27 what he told me. And I was like, man, it had to be later than that. Because it took me, I don't know how long to get where I was going upriver. So I'll be honest with you, that's one thing I'm not real sure about.
Okay, so you don't recall if you called him at 1:27 after the gunshot, or if you called prior to the gunshot to just speak to him?
He told me it was after 1 o'clock, after 1:27 when I first, and that's the only time I can remember calling him, because I know he got to be right, because I couldn't get no signal in the river to call, so he had to be right.
Yeah, and I'm saying, was the 127 call or around there that he told you, was that phone call in relation to the gunshot, or you were just calling him to speak, or?
I was calling him to let him know, sort of what happened, about her stuff, and I had a gut feeling that something might have happened bad. That's when I called him.
Okay. All right.
Now, and actually, now you know about the kayaker that found her, right?
No, sir, I don't.
Oh, you don't know about the kayaker?
Well, I heard a kayaker was out there, but I do not know the one that called her. No, sir.
He actually, after I found out, after everything had calmed down with me, I found out he's the one that told the laws. He was in there actually fishing at the same time I was. And this is what he said happened with him. He said after he heard the gunshot and everything, anyway, I went in there, got her stuff, and come back out. I didn't see the kayaker.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I didn't really think nothing about him really until after I got out of the river. And found out that he had left out of the lake, and he was going back up river because he wasn't catching nothing in the lake. He was going to see if he could go in the river and catch something. And then about that time, he said that he had heard the laws and stuff had come up and to check out everything, I guess. So he turns around and goes back into where I went in at. And he told me, he said, Johnny, he said, you rode right by her. I said, man, what are you talking about? He said, you couldn't have seen her. And then that's when he told me that he had spotted her floating in the river. And he's the one that pointed to the law to where she was at.
Talking to the maintenance guy from Lumber River State Park. We've discussed the circumstances. Mr. Jacobs was down here initially fishing, had a boat with a truck. He advised me that he left the scene out here with Mica's items. He went to either McClellan Grocery or Floyd's Grocery. I'm talking to the maintenance guy at this point, and he advised me that he came back to this location in a, what was it, sir? A white Challenger. So after he had left the scene with Mica's belongings, he returned in a passenger vehicle.
Hey guys, I'm here with DB, the private investigator that I've been working alongside on this case. We went to the state park today and we parked our car where Mica parked her car that day. We walked to the spot where she was found. It took about 15-20 minutes, you'd say,
Approximately.
To find the place where her body was found. To get there, we had to walk through ankle-deep water, which was pretty interesting. The path was also for like employees only. It said authorized personnel only, and there was no other way to get there. You have to walk through this very large puddle of water to get there. And we found the flowers that the family had left, I'm assuming where her body was found, in the swamp area. It was very covered in trees. It was pretty deep water. Not really sure how someone would get a kayak in there, much less like find anyone back there. It was very secluded. It was very loud. I'm gonna let him talk a little bit more about, how it would be really difficult to get any kind of boat in there. So
yeah, it was in a very stumpy area, a lot of stumps. So the individual that I spoke to, this fisherman, he advised the water was potentially higher today than it was on the day that he went back there. I'm out there in almost knee-high boots, and the water at that point, there's so many stumps in there that with a trolling motor would be able to be chopped up in a trolling motor. I'm not saying that other times a kayak would not be able to get back there. It's a potential thing that could have happened. We also went to the office and we asked about the cameras that were on the trail or any other cameras. The lady kind of giggled and wanted to avoid the question, instead that she was not able to divulge that information to us. We only saw one camera at the office, and that was walking in. Other than that, we did, again, like Kyler said, we went down the trail. It wasn't, the greatest path to walk. Definitely needed some knee-high boots. And there were burn marks in the area, like she said, potentially, rounds that could have been shot into the ground of the location that we were at. But I was able to confirm through the fisherman that that was the spot that he did find Mica's belongings.
Yeah, so unfortunately, we still have a lot of unanswered questions, but the burn marks on the ground were really weird. They weren't consistent with any kind of burn pile, or they were very small burn marks on the ground. We weren't able to find the bullet hole in the tree, but that's something that's really hard to find anyway, and we didn't have binoculars or anything, but it was definitely a very eerie feeling to be there. And yeah, we're gonna just keep digging and hopefully, now that people see that DB is real and legit, if you have any tips, if you were at the park that day, if you know someone who was at the park that day that would be willing to speak with us, you will remain anonymous, and it would really help this case so we can figure out what happened. And again, I want to emphasize that neither of us are getting paid for this. We're doing this during our spare time to find out what happened, because we know that people want answers, and we feel like this is something we're supposed to be doing. So we're in it for the long haul. So if you have any tips, you can message myself or him. I'm going to link his TikTok that he made for this case in the link below this video. So thanks, guys.
Greatly appreciate it.